No, Sheetal. It started actually in the beginning, but now there's no audio.
Okay, one second.
Can you watch us?
Ma'am, can you hear now?
Just a minute. No, Sheetal, play it once again, no, if you don't mind. No.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear, ma'am?
No. No, Sheetal. Somebody has. Please, can you?
Sorry to interrupt. One of the participants is presenting. Participants are requested not to press the present button. Can you please? Please do not press the present button. Thank you.
Holy Spirit.
Yes, we can hear. We can hear.
Okay, good. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. So shall we start, ma'am?
Shall we start?
Yes.
I think it's good to start, but Sirisha has not joined, right? Yet? Okay. Okay, then we can start. Nisha ma'am is there? Then we should ask her.
Ma'am, good morning. Let's start now.
We'll start with the video, ma'am.
Sheetal, it will be better if you start after Nisha ma'am joins, right?
No, our playing Sheetal.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I will start, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, Veena ma'am, Vasudha ma'am, I'm starting now.
Okay, I'll give a call to Nisha ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
We thought 10 minutes early we will start so that he can start at 11. Sheetal, you can start with the playing the video.
Foundress, Mother Nyanamma. The life of our Foundress, Mother Nyanamma, the servant of God, was other-oriented, dedicated to the welfare of others. Once she realized that she had a call to promote the cause of women, she sold all her possessions and committed her assets to the realization of her mission. At a time when educating women was a tall order, she established a school for girls at Kelacheri in 1863 and founded St.Anne's congregation in 1874 in order to ensure the continuity of her good work. Today, the congregation feels proud of its growth in the education ministry as it has turned another leaf in the form of higher education in 2005 along with other 85 institutions.
St.Anne's Degree College for Women, situated in Cambridge, Halasuru, is founded way back in the year 2005 to provide enriching and liberalizing education so as to form responsible citizens. Academic excellence, personal and interpersonal skills, and spiritual pursuit are three main objectives of our education system. They mainly cater to the middle class. Caste and creed is no bar to us. At present,
say, let's say there is a technology. To prepare for the schemes, I had asked the professors
kindly request the participant not to present their screen. Good morning, everyone. It is an immense pleasure to welcome you all for this one-day national seminar. And let us begin this seminar by invoking God. Good morning, all. Let us begin this meeting, this national webinar, with an invocation, and let us invoke God's presence. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnu Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadhanam Dhyayet Sarvabhupashanti. O Lord, please be with us and help us to sail through this program without any hindrance. Thank you. And once again, a warm welcome to all the participants and our resource person, Dr. Rajaram. And I now request our beloved principal, Ms. Nisha Joseph, to welcome the speakers and the delegates from different parts of our country. I now request Professor Nisha, to welcome the delegates. Thank you.
Good morning. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our eminent speakers, organizers, and participants of this national webinar on Research in Humanities Today and Academic Research Writing, jointly organized by the IQAC and Center for Excellence Committee of our college. St.Anne's Degree College has always been pioneering in providing holistic education to young women and empowering them with knowledge and skills based on strong value system under the guidance of Reverend Sister Julie. On this front, I congratulate the IQAC and Center for Excellence team for conducting this national webinar, which is a very relevant topic today. My warmest welcome to the speakers for today, Dr. Rajaram and Dr. Rosalind, both of whom are eminent academicians and versatile researchers. Thank you for joining us today and for assenting to give the participants an overview of the trends in research, which is often described as a systematic problem-solving activity. I express my gratitude and accord my welcome to all the participants and wish you all a purposeful and fruitful learning experience. All the very best. It is also my pleasure to give an introduction to both the speakers for today. With immense pleasure, I introduce Dr. Rajaram, who began his teaching career as a lecturer in English at St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science in 1987. There he taught English language and literature at the pre-university and undergraduate levels. In 2002, he came to St. Joseph's College of Commerce, where currently he is professor and head of the department. In a career spanning 27 years, apart from teaching regulated courses at undergraduate levels, he has also been a visiting faculty at Department of English, Bangalore University, and Central University, Gulbarga, where he has been teaching postgraduate students as invited faculty. With a master's degree in psychology from Kuvempu University, he has also offered certificate courses in psychology and neuro-linguistic program. His book titled Smart English, which is a collection of published newspaper columns, is due for publication in April 2014. A warm welcome to you, sir. It is also my pleasure to welcome Dr. Rosalind Gonzanza, who joined St. Albert College in 2014 and was head of the Department of Commerce from 2016 to 2018. She serves as a governing council member of the college from 2018 and is currently the vice principal. Ms. Rosalind holds the various positions in the statutory committees of the college. Her area of specialization is in finance, and she directs the research group of undergraduate and postgraduate students in finance and its changing trends. Ms. Rosalind, with her industrial experience of 7 years, has contributed greatly to the institution and her students. She also has a number of publications to her credit, and her paper presentations too. Ms. Rosalind has even authored a book on fundamentals of business statistics and business accounting and a handbook on GST. She is the life member in the Commerce Association of Kerala and in the Indian Accounting Association. Recently, Ms. Rosalind was awarded her doctorate degree on the topic, a study on the investment decision of making of the NRIs in Kerala with special reference to Ernakulam district from the Bharatiya University in 2019. A warm welcome to you, ma'am, and thank you, and all the very best.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was indeed a very warm welcome to everyone. I request all the participants, kindly please don't share your screen. This is one request from our side. Kindly please don't share your screen because it disturbs others. Now I request Dr. Rajaram to take over. Sir, please unmute your mic and please, we are looking forward to hearing you, sir. Thank you.
Is there a way that on the screen there are not many other displays so that
no, not at all. Only your face is there and a very nice background of Buddha and some nice. This one is there.
All right. Hello everyone. And at any point, if I'm not audible, I would like somebody to give a cue because there is no other way to find out what's happening. My intention is to speak to you for about 40 minutes on this topic of the nature of humanities research today. And as I speak, I have an awareness or an assumption that people who are here attending as delegates are either looking to do research or actually in the process of exploring the possibility of a research degree. With that in mind, I begin with a couple of background statements. See, this is not information about existing research topics. It is not input on whatever would be available to you on the net. This would be based on, it's a personal reflection of me as a teacher, a researcher, and a research guide, but what's happening in this field called humanities research. The first thing I would like to do is to clarify a few terms. Okay. Now, when you say humanities, you are actually speaking in opposition to something else. What is that something else? In the present context, that something else is what is called STEM courses, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Okay. So we are looking at humanities as opposed to the sciences. Now, why are we doing this? Because this dichotomy between humanities and natural sciences is extremely old. It's ancient, and it always reinvents itself in new forms. But we should have a clarity right at the beginning. What is our focus and what is the focus of STEM, the STEM mind? To keep it simple, the science sensibility focuses on natural processes of the world, whereas the humanities has a focus on human experience, the human condition, and the human experience. And where do you have its roots? The kind of humanism that we are talking about, which is the backbone of humanistic studies, comes to us from Renaissance. Okay, as the students of literature, let me approach this through two statements. One is, man is the measure of all things. This is from Michel Montaigne. Man is the measure of all things. And if you look at Shakespeare's Hamlet, there is a line which says, "What a piece of work is man, how noble." And he goes on like this. So it is the Renaissance self-confidence that is at the backbone of this humanist perspective. And it's very important to keep this in mind as we trace what has happened to this notion in the present days. Okay, now basically the tension between the humanist and the scientific discourses started and was well documented even by John Keats, the famous romantic poet. He laments science, saying, "These people are unweaving the rainbow." He's romantic, he wants to celebrate the beauty of the rainbow, and he says, science is such a cruel thing that it unweaves the beauty of the rainbow in trying to understand the world. And Hopkins has a similar thought when he says, in actually understanding nature, we end her. These are conflictual positions, and even research orientations are informed by this kind of tension. Whereas the roots of this optimism in human flourishing is also in Greece. Okay, but at the same time, you should know that the humanist perspective has always been seen as a threat or a disturbance by those in authority across ages, including Plato, who wanted to banish poets from his republic. Okay, it's very interesting why poets, such innocuous and non-threatening, seemingly non-threatening human beings like poets, are such a threat to people in authority. this kind of shift has happened in history when we have shifted from being Homo curious to Homo economicus. This is spotted by the philosopher Martha Nussbaum, who says at some point in the intellectual history of ideas, being curious was all that was required. Being virtuous, being curious, knowing what the world was. This comes from, this is behind this perception of understanding is ecstasy. Understanding is ecstasy. So what is the root impulse of research? To understand. And for what purpose? To understand for the joy of it, for the thrill of it. We all know as students of canonical literature, Matthew Arnold's definition of literature being a contemplation on the best that was ever thought. Okay? But what happened to that was this belief in human flourishing shifted to a utilitarian bent as we moved along. So, from flourishing as a human being, we wanted to control nature. And science and scientism was a weapon, was a weaponization of the human mind. Okay, that was what science was in the views of people like William Blake and Keats. Okay, so he seems to say that the research paradigms are not independent of the deep structures that control them. What is the deep structure that shifted humanities from a celebratory position to a defensive position? This is important for us as students of humanities to know. As I see it, the emergence of three people and their thinking started a crisis of confidence within the humanities. And I will just name the three people, and you can follow up why these people's insights gave a kind of, should we say, uncertainty to the humanistic self. Who are those? First was Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche. Okay. He was the first anti-foundationist. Okay. See, please remember, humanism is built around an unquestioned confidence in the human self or human subject or the Renaissance self. Now, Nietzsche, people like even Darwin and Freud also contributed to this kind of uncertainty. They started a kind of anti-foundationalism, which was further deepened by Ferdinand Saussure, when he comes up and says the link between language and its referential object is completely arbitrary. Language and meaning are not systemically linked. It is completely arbitrary. So what happens? The human being is just a word. The human being is just a referent. It is a signifier to an eternally differing signifier. So when theoretically these things look very innocent, but they have the potential to completely redraw disciplinary lines. And this is what happened in the late 60s literature departments worldwide, basically starting from France, perhaps the most intellectual of the modern nations. Okay, we don't know if you name people from literary theory, all of them seem to have a French connection. Lacan, Derrida, okay, and these people. So to add to that, you had one more name. These are the Trimurtis of literary theory. Foucault, okay, and what Foucault did, which really altered the way humanistic research could go further was he linked knowledge and power, and he said fundamentally we are all effects of power. Okay, power is the basic experiential unit in the world. The rest is commentary. Okay, and see what a mix we have here: Nietzsche, Saussure, Foucault, and these people. What they did was, it was no more possible to confidently do autobiographical studies or canonical literature with a degree of certainty and confidence that had come down to us from centuries. So this radical skepticism about language, the radical, uncertainty of meaning, the eternal indeterminacy of the signified, these actually altered the topography of English departments worldwide. So, without our knowledge, if you track, it even happened in India. There was one generation of thinkers and writers in India who started self-reflexive practice of being English teachers. Let me name a few. I'm sure you would have, if you are a student of English literature or teaching of English in India, you will know all these names. Susie Tharu is one. Rajeshwari Sundararajan is one. Gauri Vishwanathan is one. What these people did was, what are we doing? What are we researching? What should be the true, authentic role of an English teacher in a colonized society like us? What is the post-colonial authentic self of the English teacher? Okay, these are very powerful questions which have a direct implication, direct link on your choices of research topics, your choices of research orientations, and your choices of research as practice. So at this point, when literary studies became cultural studies, there was a completely new set of topics that came up. And those of you who will ever do literature research in the future will have to touch these topics one way or the other. Okay? There is a loss of innocence with regard to choosing topics for English research. I'm reminded of T.S. Eliot's After This Knowledge, What Forgiveness. You cannot get back to certain types of, authorial or autobiographical, approaches without innovatively changing them. Say, for example, Stephen Greenblatt's historical material, kind of new historicism. Okay. So, those are all innovations forced due to interdisciplinarity and disciplinary reconfigurations within the study, within the realm of English studies. Okay. Now, for the sake of clarity and also for the sake of simplicity, please remember in about 40 minutes, try to condense these things is difficult. But I have made a list of the emergent topics in the last 5 years English theses from different universities. Okay, it's a huge list, but I will just give you about 8 or 9 topics. Okay, and if you look at Shodh Ganga, or if you look at any thesis database, you will find that all across Indian universities, research topics are constantly invoking some core concepts. Let me list some of those concepts for you here. The first one is culture, different dimensions of culture, basically in line with privileging cultural studies. Then you have notions of power, especially within the Foucauldian paradigm. Okay? The connection between knowledge and power. Straight away, this brings us back to gender, okay? Identity politics, marginality, okay? And all these topics cannot be dealt with in isolation or in a regimented, limited, canonical perception of what literature is. These are possible. Even to negotiate these topics, you have to subscribe and practice the, should we say, the praxis of interdisciplinarity. Okay, so interdisciplinary approach becomes the basic assumption of doing literary study. When you look at this, you get a set of topics, and these topics also invite a set of methods. Okay, and those methods, because of the kind of once you do Foucault as a method, you cannot be apolitical. Okay, you will find that Derrida and Lacan stay clear of direct making direct political statements, though you can read it into them. But if you are into Foucault, you are taking a political stand, and then they read culture in extremely imaginative ways. Okay, and one method of doing literature, doing literary research, which is now very popular. Some of you who are in touch with contemporary development, this is already a well-known bit of knowledge for you, is the use of semiotics. Okay, so ordinary things become semiotically very significant, giving you very different readings, very different resonances. Okay, let's do, just for a demonstration, let's do a small semiotic reading of a very popular TV advertisement. Okay, some of you who might have heard me before might know this example. I'm giving this bearing repetition for those who are listening to this for the first time. This is actually an ad for, it's a fairness skin cream advertisement for Fair and Lovely. Okay, the visual opens with concerned parents after a boy has come to look at the girl, look in the traditional sense, Uppitu coffee kind of looking. Okay, so he comes, he looks, she's fine, she's wonderful, all that is okay. But there is one problem, her skin is a shade dark, and there is a touch of discontent on our prospective bridegroom's face. And that sets the heart rate of the parents racing. These people tell the parents that will come back and let you know what happens. Okay, what our opinion is. At this point, insecure parents of the girl go off. See how, please pay attention to how regressive this advertisement is. But it ran for a very long time on Indian TV. Then they go to the family Jyotish, the astrologer, and he asks, yeah, what is the problem? She says, yeah, this boy has come, looked at it, and we think you won't agree because of this color issue. So the priest says, okay, give me the horoscope. He looks at the horoscope and says, yeah, now I know where the problem is. Your daughter has a Saturn in the 8th house. And once Saturn's shadow is cast, there is no way she can have a fair skin. But don't worry, we'll find a way out. Okay? And he pulls out a tube of Fair and Lovely cream and hands it over to the mother of the girl. But as he opens the cap of the Fair and Lovely cream, it falls on the horoscope 8th house and kicks Saturn out of the orbit. Look how modernity, technology, and regressiveness work. And the moment Saturn is out, clear, she is now crystal clear, thanks to Fair and Lovely, crystal clear skin, and the boy is happy, everybody is happy, and we have this Mangalavadya Mahurtam, everybody is happy. Okay. Look what a toxic advertisement is. Actually. Okay? If you do a semiotic reading, it is privileging skin, and these are, you can even further take it further and look how naturalized we have become to, we all have developed a kind of semiotic blindness. Kancha Alaya gives another example. Okay? He says, yeah, the cow is an extremely revered animal in India. Lovely, no problem. Wonderful. Okay? But if you do a statistical analysis, 75% of milk consumption of the children in this country comes from buffaloes. Only 25% of children partake cow milk. But why is it that the cow is held in such great esteem? That is fine, no problem. But what has this poor buffalo done? Okay. When it supplies 75% of the milk to the nation, we don't privilege the buffalo. And his analysis is again our color blindness. Buffalo is black and cow is Gaura, white. And this goes back to Kanakadasa, where he talks, he sets up a dialogue between Akki and Ragi. Ragi is black, Akki is white. See, these are cultural motives that come across, and only if you have a semiotic post-structuralist touch, some things become open, some things become clear. So, in trying to explain what kind of cultural twists and turns our research orientations take because of very authentic reasons, I had to give this example. Okay. Now, basically, when the English departments were changing, altering, and moving towards cultural studies, there was another problem that was emerging. That was the emergence of scientism. Scientism is only privileging the scientific method that has 4 steps of observation, hypothesis, experimentation, inference. Only knowledge gained by this method is valid, the rest is not valid. Okay. And because of this, budgets for humanities all over the university shrank. It is even true of Indian Council of Cultural Research, which cut humanities budget by 80% in the last 6 years because people are asking for deliverables. What is the deliverable of the humanities department? I mean, you have to ask what is happening to a culture that simply does not see that the humanities conception of the common good is far more complex than the simplistic scientific understanding. The common good of the humanities perspective is much more sophisticated. Why do you need that? Because all problems of the present day cannot be addressed with monocultural mindset. You cannot, science alone cannot solve, which means left brain resources alone cannot solve global problems of today, whether it is climate change, whether it is disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence and genetic manipulation, or the rising inequality. These need a kind of gestalt, a cognitive gestalt of both the right brain and the left brain. That is possible only if there is the mistrust, the wall of mistrust between humanities and sciences dissolved. And basically, the skill of solving global problems is the ability to continue having conversations. Somehow our levels of public discourse have sunk so low that anything different from us, our first reaction is, can I eliminate it? What do you do with difference? Eliminate the difference. Okay? But in an enlightened society, ecology of different perspectives, pluralist aspects need to be welcomed, sustained, even when you don't agree. That is the kind of education only humanistic and humanities research can give us. So, one of the problems that humanities research departments are facing in the from the early part of this century is the dominance of the scientism paradigm. So what has happened is humanities response has been one of selective resistance and selective assimilation. Some things they are resisting, some things they are assimilating. So when you look at what is happening after this kind of disturbance, I'm just giving you, I see that time is a factor here. Therefore, after this kind of unsettling, right now on the menu card of English department research possibilities, there are roughly 4 broad categories. Okay, anybody who wants to do further research will have to touch upon this, will have to focus on this. First is a kind of author-focused research with a touch of post-structuralism, where you problematize the self, okay? So life narratives, you call them, you don't call them author anymore, okay? Then reader-focused, reader response theory focused research. Then you have formalist close reading of the texts. And then you have Stephen Greenblatt's kind of research, which is context-based, okay? New historicism is this, placing history next to a literary text and seeing what insights it can offer us. So what this also means that it goes hand in hand with clearly definable research orientations. Let me identify 4 orientations for you. If you are eclectic, you will choose a topic or an orientation that suits your mind. Remember, whenever you want to do research in humanities or any other research, there should be a meeting point between cultural urgency and personal passion. You should have a passion for it, and there should be a cultural urgency for the topic to be addressed, felt need for the topic to be addressed. Otherwise, you have to stick with it for 4 or 5 years, or at least 3 years. Okay, so when you look at those kind of possibilities, I see innovative deployment of 4 clusters of methods. These are the methods that are being tried out even internationally and within national context of India. The first one is historical research. Second one is textual research, reading texts extremely closely with a very strong focus on intertextuality. Intertextuality is a new, possibility that has emerged that has fantastic insights to offer. And the third one is critical discourse analysis, which is very Foucauldian, which looks at the identity, power, and knowledge nexus of how knowledge systems are generated. Foucault calls himself professor of systems of thought. Okay, and some of his insights are absolutely vital for how we understand texts and textuality. And the last one is something that if you have been a keen student of literature and literary theory, you will see that there's a strong link between philosophy and literary theory. None of the literary theorists have written anything that you call creative writing. For example, Derrida has not written a novel, Lacan has written no poetry, Foucault has not written a play, okay? But every English department cannot now read any other text without the aid of the lens offered by this theoretician. The strong link between philosophy and literary theory can be understood from the emergence of a new research paradigm, and that paradigm can be called as the constructivist paradigm, okay? Which means that reality out there is not independent of the subject who is looking at reality, okay? Reality is interpreted mediated by perception of the perceiving subject and reality out there. So it's a co-construction. And this is a very novel line of research, and it has direct links to phenomenology, Husserl, Heidegger. Those are the ways in which we will be moving, and then it has certain affiliations to narrative therapy. Okay. It's a beautiful line to take. Some of you should explore these angles. Then, let me, at this point, let me leave you with, in India, where is the cutting edge humanities research happening in India? Who can you approach? Which universities will give you worthwhile PhD time? Okay, I have 3 suggestions for you. All these are just suggestions, but I would like you to explore them. Okay, the first one is a university called Flame University, Flame, Flame University. It has very imaginative, interdisciplinary courses, highly creative, faculties, very nice. It is in Pune. Okay, you can Google these universities and get a lot out of it. Okay, one is Flame University. The other is Ashoka University. Okay, it has a campus in Haryana, and Ashoka University's arts and humanities curriculum is exciting. Take a look at it. Okay, and they mix social work, they mix philosophy and physics, and in very, very interesting ways. Okay, that line of inquiry you might find very fruitful. And closer home, I would ask you to take a look at Azim Premji University. Okay, the liberal arts curriculum of Azim Premji University. These 3 are very nice locations to look into. I actually free associated a lot. I had a few things to share in terms of what I see as the terrain of research in humanities today in India and perhaps in some parts of the world is. So with this, I stop now for any questions you might have. Let's see where they go. I will now stop for some questions for about 15 minutes, question time.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to ask you one small question, sir. If at all, if they will have to get the, explore the areas of, especially in humanities, what do you think will be the area in which how they will be able to take it up further? What is the primary criterion a research scholar should have, sir?
I think even before a criteria, a research scholar should have a question, okay? Not simply for the doctoral degree, okay? Every researcher should have a small set of continuously changing but constantly engaging set of questions that matter, okay? Okay, what are the questions that truly matter to you? Unless you find some resonance within you, which aligns with your intellectual curiosity, after some time, research becomes difficult. You don't know why you got into this mess. And please remember the dropout rate in humanities research PhD departments all over the world is 78%. 78% of all registered humanities research people across the world don't complete their thesis. This is something that we need to, that's why getting to a question that matters to you and whose curiosity you can hold for a sustained length of time. But it's such a great stream that once you get in, and if you have the right resonance, it's a fantastic journey, beautiful journey.
I request the participants to please come forward and ask questions.
Somebody is typing a question here. If you can tell me what the question is, I can answer it.
Okay. Can we use multiple research methods? How do you couple contrasting methods? It is asked by Dr. Kavita Shastri from Vijay College.
Certainly, you can use multiple. See, please remember there are two things. There are systemic requirements for a research thesis, and there are emotional and intellectual requirements for a research thesis. You can use multiple perspectives to deepen your engagement with your topic. But the rigors of methodology, there's a section on methodology in every thesis. And in the Viva, that is the most difficult section to handle. Because if you are eclectic, if you are using all the methods, and if external examiners do not take very kindly to unthinking mixing of desperate approaches, by desperate I mean very differing approaches, then you will have tough time defending your thesis. But having said this, if you take enough caution, oh, it's wonderful. Why not?
So the next question is, this is by Ms. Risha. Sir, I am particularly interested in exploring the possibilities of interdisciplinary approach in medical humanities. What critical approach do I take up?
In medical humanities. Okay. See, please remember, even in the conceptual category of the humanities, now you have a topic called the new humanities. The new humanities. Okay. So basically, if you want to do medical, what is the topic that she wants to take up?
Medical humanities.
Sir, good morning.
Yeah, please speak up. Please speak
Sir, good morning. Sirisha here.
Yes, Risha, tell me.
Yeah. Sir, in particular, I was interested about illness narratives.
Okay, okay.
This is with regard to the novels by Jerry Pinto, M and the Big Who, and Paul Kalani's novel that is When Breath Becomes Air, yes, and the Doctor Stories. This in particular I was going through, and I'm so touched with the narrative of the patients, actually, the illness narrative, the so-called, but I didn't know how do I go about with the critical approaches. What do I start with? What do I look at? Just the narratives of the illness or much more? like you said, touching upon the whole thing about, bioethics, the medical fraternity, how they treat the patients and how the patients feel about it, the families, how they react. It's so relevant to the COVID time, especially when our medical fraternity are not, empathized with our, illness, ill people, sick people.
Yeah, I can suggest two methods for you. They are very recent methods. The research in that field is just emerging. But if you are interested in illness narratives, that is the method to go. It is called phenomenology. Okay, phenomenology. Okay, so phenomenology is how you perceive your own body, how you perceive what is the interface between experience and the process of experience and reality that is experienced. The people who are top names in this is Merleau-Ponty, the philosopher, Merleau-Ponty, Phenomenology of Perception. That is the text. It's a fantastic reading. Okay? These are difficult texts, but they're worth their weight in gold and beyond. Okay? And then Martin Heidegger, Being and Time. Being and Time. There, if you read these two people, phenomenologists, and get into illness narratives, you will have a grand time doing your PhD. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You've answered my question. Thank you.
Professor, I have a question.
Yes?
Narasimhamurthy here.
Oh, hello, Mr. Nitya. Tell me.
See, these days, I'm finding the universities are giving more emphasis on language than literature. How can we reverse this? What is the role of teachers in reversing this from literature, language to literature rather?
See, I think, first of all, certain trends cannot be ducked. What has happened here is we have gotten very utilitarian. Okay, for everything there should be a use. Okay, and that's a kind of abuse of use, actually, right? If you are unable to disinterestedly follow a topic because it doesn't have any market value, the problem is with the society that has this value system, not with you. Okay, that's why you have the word literature has the Indian word for literature is sahitya, which the root is sahita, that is togetherness. It's a companion. It's a sangati. Okay, actually, Akka Mahadevi calls literature Atma Sangata. Atma Sangata is a companion of the soul. But post-structuralists will have a little, perhaps a derisive look at this kind of construction, but that's fine. That's fine. Basically, literature is, of course, Harold Bloom had this problem, because he says, is literature inherently elitist? I don't know, you have to answer this question. So when you turn literature towards the masses, does it become language? I don't know. But good question.
Thank you.
So there is another question here.
Yeah.
By Fanny Francie. How should we choose a topic or an area to work on research?
Let the topic choose you, which means, see, you should not be very mercenary about choosing a topic, because if you are very hurriedly looking at a topic, we don't know ourselves deep enough at the point of choosing a topic, so many people lose interest soon after registration is done. Okay, because we have that fetish for PhD registration, and once that is done, it is what George Bernard says that there are two tragedies in life. One is not getting what you want, the other is getting it. Because the moment you get it, it's lost its charm for you. So therefore, the way to choose, that is an asset, but a practical method of choosing a topic is to brainstorm and make a list of the words that associate, when you fully associate with a topic, what is it that you truly like? Basically, nowadays, all topics have a felt need aspect. When you're taking a topic, what is the felt need to take up that topic? You should be able to write a small paragraph, a clarifying paragraph. And that will tell you whether that felt need resonates with you. Then you have to know yourself better, in the sense, are you more comfortable with ELT or narrative literature? Right? Just read without wanting to choose a topic. Read for 3 months. You will get to know what to do. Read for 3 months, just like that.
Next question. Ms. Akila has asked about your opinion on the education policy, and she wanted to know whether research as a degree is mandatory, or if at all, if it is made mandatory, she's asking, won't it lose its essence?
I see two very disconnected questions here. Which one should I answer? One is on education policy, my opinion on education policy. What is the other one? Can you repeat the other one?
She wants to know whether why research is made mandatory. If when research is made mandatory, won't it lose its essence?
You're asking the wrong person, but let me try to answer this question. The new education policy is just a few hours old. Okay, it was released yesterday. I have only a cursory idea of what this is about. There are some things that I like about it, at least on paper, because actually these things make sense only in their implementation, not in their declaration. So we don't know how things work out. We have to suspend judgment and wait and watch. That's the first thing. But one thing that sounds promising to me is the disappearance of disciplinary boundaries. These three kinds of arts, commerce, science graduation was there, that has gone now. People can mix subjects across streams and do a degree, if I understand it right. If that is there, that's a positive. That's truly a positive thing. The second positive thing which surprised me was that mother tongue education in the first 5 years. That's a massive boost for natural creativity. Okay, struggling under the burden of another language is a form of cruelty. So that is a nice thing. Only because it's too new for me, I need some time to think and come up with an opinion. But these are my cursory observations.
Ms. Mamta Sharma is asking, is it preferable to do PhD in literature or in language for the university? More preferably in the university, English literature is preferred or English language is preferred?
Now, basically, I think behind this question, there is another question: where do I get more jobs? Okay. Behind this question, the unasked question is, what are my chances of employment if I do literature on one hand, and if I do, okay. Please remember, nowadays, if this kind of cross-disciplinarity increases, it doesn't matter what you take, but you need to be the best in what you are doing across across disciplines, across job markets, across different professional niches. There is a really shortage of vital skills. So if you are good in communication, if you are good in written language, if you are expressive, and if you are creative, I don't think jobs are such an issue. And please remember the days of sustained 5 decades job or 3.5 decades job you do and you retire on pension, those days are over. Whether you work for government or you work on private, those days are actually over. On an average, in 20 years' time, you will have to take 6 different jobs. Okay, I'm talking of Indians. I'm not talking of America or Europe. That is what is going to happen. Basically, because we simply don't know the kind of disruptions that artificial intelligence will bring into the labor market. Only now we are beginning to realize. There will be very soon, according to Yuval Noah Harari, who is a historian, he says that there will be a massive redundant class, a class that doesn't know do what to do. So liberal arts education is important because you have a broad-based skill. You wait and watch and take the niche and get a job. It's interesting.
I think it's almost 12 o'clock, sir. And it was very, very informative. And on behalf of the management and on behalf of the principal, staff, and the organizing committee, I heartily thank you for accepting our invitation and for giving such wonderful information. It was very informative, and thank you very much, sir. And we would like you to stay through the session, one more session, so that we can, formally give the vote of thanks even for you. So please, thank you, sir.
Oh, my pleasure. It was lovely interacting with you and the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I request Ms. Medlin to take over, please. Ms. Medlin, kindly unmute yourself. We are not able to hear you.
Okay. Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yes, yes. Yes, Medlin.
Okay. Thank you, Vasudha, ma'am. Myself, Medlin, from the PG Department of Commerce of St.Anne's Degree College, Bangalore. A very good afternoon to all the e-participants. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our eminent resource person, Dr. Rosalind, for the next session. She has a doctorate in commerce from Bharatiyar University, a master's degree in commerce from the Mahatma Gandhi University, and a master's degree in business administration from Annamala University. She has completed a B.Ed and has also cleared her UGC NET. She is currently the Vice Principal and the Governing Council member of St. Albert's College Autonomous Ernakulam and has been in the teaching profession for the past 12 years. Dr. Rosalind holds various positions in the statutory committees of the college. Her area of specialization is in finance, and she directs a research group of undergraduate and postgraduate students in finance and in its changing trends. She has a number of publications and paper presentations to her credit. She has authored a book on fundamentals of business statistics and business accounting and a handbook on GST. She is also a life member in the Commerce Association of Kerala. and in the Indian Accounting Association as well. She will be sharing her valuable experience and knowledge about academic writing and research publications. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am. May I now request Dr. Rosalind to please take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline, for those wonderful words of introduction. Now, I'll just take you to my session, the academic writing. Most respected dignitaries, faculties, and research scholars, as teachers, we hold high responsibility to give to the stakeholders our expertise in a very simple form, and there portrays the importance of academic writing. Academic writing offers strategies to improve writing and the research skills, schedules activities, and helps us to build time, budget our time effectively, and get started off early. It obviously starts with brainstorming, helps you to make an outline, makes you prepare multiple drafts, helps you to improve on those drafts, proofread them, and thus excelling your paper. When you are engaged in academic writing, the first thing that comes to your mind is when to write, what do I write, how do I plan my academic writing, where do I send it, how do I get it reviewed, and how do I proofread it. And to answer all these questions, we have to have a little bit of in-depth into what is academic writing. Now, as you all know, academic writing is nothing but a style of expression the researchers use to define the intellectual boundaries of their discipline and their specific areas of expertise. And for this, we are just going through certain basic skills which are needed for academic writing, the rules to be followed, and how to select a journal to communicate your publication. Well, I'm not going too deep into what is academic writing because most of us know what is academic writing, but I'll just tell you the types of academic writing. It's nothing but you have the expository writing where you intend to inform and to explain. Then you have the descriptive form of academic writing where you use a lot of visual words. And when you use these visual words, it helps you to see the person, the place, or the thing that you're wanting to talk about or write about. And when it comes to the narrative writing, it is very common where you see it in novels, poetries, and biographies. Now, persuasive writing is nothing but taking the opinion of the writer, and you see this mainly in advertising. Creative writing is mostly fun type of writing. It helps you to give provoking questions, entertaining, and it's very interesting to read. So these are the types of writing. But the most simple and the most important thing to be kept in mind is when you do an academic writing, see that simplicity is the key. You have to be very simple because end of the day you want the readers to understand what you are writing. Now, what are the elements of academic writing? It is nothing but a big picture, the various small parts that you have been carrying over through a period of time is simplified into a whole picture. That gives you the entire picture of your academic writing. The tone refers your attitude. The diction refers the choice of your words. The language, you have to know, it is important that you do not use any unambiguous language. Punctuation is another very important criteria, whereby when you use the punctuation wrong, you tend to change the entire sense of the sentence. So punctuation has to be dealt with very carefully. Then, academic conventions, that is citing the source of your body, the body of your paper, providing the list of references, either the footnotes or the endnotes. That depends on the style which you are choosing, the academic writing style. You can be choosing the MLA style or CMS style, whatever it is. So, whatever style you're choosing, you have to follow those convictions. Then, of course, it is thesis driven, and the complexity is nothing but it issues high order thinking skills. And a good teacher is the one who's able to explain these complex ideas in a very understandable manner. And then use of jargons, It is appropriate for you to use specialized language within your field of study, but you should avoid using such language when it comes to non-academic or general audience. Now, using a specialized terminology, that too, it is depending on your field or of your academic writing. Then the inappropriate use of specialized terminology, because you are dealing with the concepts, research, and data within your discipline, you still need to use certain technical language, but that has to be appropriate to your area of study. Then, in the case of personal pronouns, it is better to avoid I, me, you, us, etc. And the numbered, now when you are writing your academic writing, you tend to use numbered lists, bulletin lists, but only if it needs clarity, it has to be used. Otherwise, you don't have to necessarily use numbered lists. Now, the next is, what are the traits in academic writing? The traits are nothing is, you have to know, it has to be clear. Clarity is a must. Then it has to have a trait of completeness. It has to be logical. It has to be mentioned in its totality. Also, technically, it has to be sequenced properly and also unambiguity. Also, you have to keep in mind when you do an academic writing, it has to be reader friendly. The language has to be very clear. It has to be rational or logical, and also critical thinking and reading is a must. Now, the things, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just giving you this thing of the things to be avoided. Try to avoid personal nouns. Try not being very authoritative. Never use informal conversation tone. Never use too many words. Like, for example, if you're trying to explain a skyscraper, you don't have to use the term tall skyscraper because tall skyscraper is tall. So try to use words correctly and aptly. Now, next is vague expressions. You don't have to use very uncertain or unclear expressions. You can not you don't have to use your personal experience in your academic writing, but in an but you can explain not in your academic writing. Suppose if you're at a conference, you can explain your personal experience, or if you're sharing at online or whatever it is, but try, you should never use it in your academic writing. Then what are the steps? Now, the basic step is, the first thing is you have to generate ideas. And that generating ideas comes only from critical thinking and critical reading. Okay, now when you critically think, you analyze and evaluate. And when you critically read, you try to interpret and you will try to go through the literature review. Then you come to building a framework about the idea, sequencing your idea, and then comes the first draft. The first draft will be like, it is quite flexible. You can include your flexible ideas. You can keep revising the outline. You can have a visual representation. You can list all your sources. Then you have to keep on writing multiple drafts. And there is where you find the refinement is happening. You can see major changes taking place. And then you can see how your feedback happens. And finally, you will write the final draft. You give the proofreading, and then you have to follow it up to the publisher. These are basically the guidelines that are to be followed at the time of academic writing. And you will notice, like, as you're writing your draft and your synopsis, you will always notice, like, for example, now when I was doing my research, I had my introduction page. The first day when I was supposed to do my synopsis, it was just 4 pages. Then ultimately, as I was doing my work, the introduction page, it was building on the introduction page. And eventually, at the end of my research, I found what a drastic change the introduction has made, the introduction section of my thesis has made. So all this actually puts in a lot. And this is the main thing in the steps that you do your academic writing. Another thing is the academic writing. Our stakeholders are our students, then the academicians, researchers, and the institution. Now we always know students. For them, if you tell them to write something, it is definitely an hurricane task. last minute they'll be running for guidance. But as teachers, we should see that they develop their skills in academic writing. And that is why we are, as teachers, are also guiding the children at the PG level and the UG level also. Then it helps the students. When you guide them correctly, it helps them to open their minds towards better understanding, effective expression and communication, fulfilling their thesis and dissertation, whatever it is. Now, again, for the academicians, it's the best way, in fact, to disseminate your knowledge. And the main idea behind this is you have to focus globally rather than locally. You get a global outreach. Then also it is a benchmark for academic proficiency, your recognition and your expertise. The tool for contributing to the knowledge domain. Now when it comes to researchers, it is the best way to communicate to a very good journal. And as you all know, for you to obtain your PhD, it is mandatory that you have 2 publications. It is a recognition of your work. It helps you to share with national and international journals. It helps you to plan future research. It builds up your CV and also helps you for your project grants. Again, when it comes to the institution, each and every one of us seated here, whether we are faculties or students, we are the ones who carry the baton, the name, the goodwill, and the prestige of our institution. And these academic writings, it is a performance indicator for the institution. They help in getting funds, attracting prospective students, and building an impact of the institution and thereby increasing the goodwill and the prestige of the institution. So basically, the basic rules that have to be followed for academic writing is nothing but first thing is you have to have a rationality. Rationality is nothing but is your work innovative? If it is innovative, is there a chance of patentability? If there is no chance of patentability, only then publish the journal. Well, the second rule is you have to plan well in advance. You have to give the correct time. Only then you will get the correct output. Then you have to target your journal wisely. Today we see a lot of journals, a lot of like coming up on our mail and all that. You see, there are so much of Tom, Dick, and Harry journals. But then you have to see which is the one with a good impact factor, whether it is affordable, etc. Choose the right type, make several drafts, avoid typos and language errors, stick to journal formats, revise, recheck, and also if you have any reviewers' comments, you see that you regularly address them. And you see that you address them very politely. And in case if you do not know an answer to their question, always seek advice from your research supervisor or anyone who has a thorough knowledge of your subject. Now, this is something as we as academicians, we have a basic every day, something or the other we have to do, and ultimately we tend to move into research. And for this, I'm not going to take too much of your time on research. One is research means search for knowledge. It aims at discovering truth. It involves collection, organization, and analysis of information to increase the understanding of our topic or an issue. Now, what is the importance of research? It provides us the basis for government policies. It helps us in solving a lot of operational and planning problems in the business and industry. Of course, there are a lot of commercial research that is going on. And there are cases where the industry approaches directly and they give certain topics for the children. Now, make sure as teachers, when you ask your children to take topics, you ask them to take topics which are relevant. Ask them to take topics where they are able to understand where the business has a problem and try to solve something which helps that business or that particular industry. So there they will get a better understanding, they will get a better rapport with the industry, and thereby effectively they will be helping the industry ultimately. It helps to solve a lot of social problems. and thereby it is helpful to the students, to the professionals, to the philosophers, etc. Now, the qualities of a good research, as you all know, it has to be systematic, it has to be logical, it has to be empirical, that is based on observation and measurement of phenomena as directly experienced by the researcher. It must be one whose results can be verified by replicating the study. That is, again, if you're doing the study, you should not get another answer. The procedure followed in the research work must be described in sufficient manner. It should be designed that the objectives, whatever objectives, should be achieved by doing that particular research. Now, another thing, the problem that we come across is plagiarism. As we all know, plagiarism is nothing but you're stealing someone else's work. And to avoid plagiarism is you have to cite the thing what is seen is. Plagiarism means if you're not citing a source properly, or if you're failing to cite a source, or creating a false source. This is what is termed as plagiarism. Now, then where do you get your good sources from? It's nothing but you can get it from a lot of universities. But only thing you have to mention from where you have taken it. You can take it from major publishing houses, from well-known organizations and their websites, from their newspapers, well-known newspapers, from known media sources, from online journals, but you have to avoid using Wikipedia, anyone's personal blogs, non-credible newspapers, social media, etc. Now, what are the tips to avoid plagiarism? One is the very basic tip is you have to be honest because you are the best judge for your research work. Start early. If you have enough time to do a research paper, you don't have to rush and copy things. You have to have the correct citation. Suppose it means whatever, if you have taken it from the net or if you have taken it from anyone's work, you have to just cite the sources. That doesn't mean anything wrong. When you proofread, it helps you with your plagiarism. Now, as we all know, the steps in research process, I'm not going in detail, we are all teachers and we know what are the steps in the research process. One is you have to identify the problem. You have to have an extensive literature survey. Here I would like to mention something is when you are doing research and you have your research guide and the research guide tells you you have to do so many research surveys. What I did is end of the day we have to have a research diary. Make sure that you have a research diary. As you read one literature survey, just go to your research diary and write that in your own words. And then you open a Word document and you immediately put it onto the Word document in your own words. So you don't leave it for another day where you have to sit and write your research review of literature. That really helps you a lot practically. So whenever, if you have covered 90 research surveys or literature review, you end of the day you will be having 90 words coded in your own language in whatever you have understood, and it helps you a lot while you are doing your research, and it helps you to bridge the gap, and also it will help you your study. You don't have to continue the same study of another person, so it helps you like you will be having a topic which is far different from the others, but still it helps you to bridge the gap between the previous literature as well as the present study. So this is something you have to all take very careful note on. When you do your literature review, see that you maintain a diary, and as you are doing it, or as you are doing your third chapter also, this can go side by side. Your research literature review can continue till the end of your now, for example, for your research, if you're using 5 years, you can even continue with your research literature review and all that. You can. What I did was I opened. We all know we need 5 chapters. So what I did is I opened one for introduction, one for literature review, one for my third chapter, one for my findings, one for my conclusion. And based on all this, I used to be entering whatever I was finding. So I didn't find it, and I didn't have even to take leave for my research because it helped me a lot. Now, again, next is you have to write your primary synopsis, identify the variables, set up your hypothesis, which you all know it is a tentative conclusion, then preparing your research design, determining the sample design, collection of data, execution of the project, processing of the data, then testing the hypothesis, you preparing the report or the thesis. This is how it goes. These are the steps. Now, finally, I would like to, not finally, I would like to tell you now, whatever it is, a research has to be linked with a questionnaire or whatever method you are opting for. But the most commonly used is a questionnaire, be it online or offline. Now, if it is online, you have the Google Forms, but you have to take care to see that the quality of the questionnaire is maintained. Only then you will get a fine academic writing work. One is the length of the questionnaire should be a proper one. The language should be easy. The term should be explained properly. It should be arranged well. It should be in a very logical manner. It should be in an analytical form. The questions should not be broken into small questions. The questions should be very precise and correct. It should be constructed for a specific time period. It should be moving with the theme of the investigator. Always keep the theme in your mind. You should not deviate when you are doing your questionnaire. And also, when you are expecting the answers, you should expect answers which are short and simple. They should be accurate. It should be direct. It should be relevant to the problem. It should be understandable to all the respondents. And for that, you use definitely the types of questions you know, the closed types which only ask you no or yes. Open-ended questions gives you a slight encouragement, giving you a little thought for answering. And then probing questions, which are for getting clarifications. Leading questions, which lead you to either some positive or negative route. These are the different types of questions that are being used as a questionnaire. Now, again, now let us come to the publications. Now, as you all know, we have the UGC careless journals. Now, UGC has set up a consortium for academic and research ethics to ensure prevention of academic misconduct that includes plagiarism in academic writing among students, faculty, researchers, and staff. The care has been taken to identify continuously, monitor, and maintain UGC care reference list of quality journals. And why have they set up this UGC care journals? Mainly to promote quality research, academic integrity, for promoting high quality publications, to prevent publications which are predatory, substandard, and which tarnish the Indian academia image, and also to maintain the UGC care reference list of quality journals for all academic purposes. Now, the UGC care list comprises of two main groups. That is, we have the first group and the second group. The first group deals with science, social science, arts and humanities, multidisciplinary, Indian languages. And the second group is basically with all the science citations. Here also we have arts and humanities citation index, science citation index, social science, and Scopus source list. Now, you have to, as I mentioned earlier, when you do your publication, you have to seek for the impact factor. And the impact factor is nothing but the measure of the frequency on which the article has been cited in a particular year. How many times it has been cited by the various research scholars, etc. Now, how is it calculated? It is based on a 2-year period and it involves dividing the number of times the articles were cited by the number of articles that are citable. Now, again, we have the Australian Business Bean Council with their list of journals. And in 2019, they had endorsed around 2,682 journals, giving their impact factors. Now, again, you have the tools to measure the impact factors, and they are the journal citation reports. Then you have the SC Imago Journal Research Ranking. Then the SNIP, that is the source normalized impact per pages. These are nothing, these are only portals where you find articles and journals of different subjects. Then another thing you must have come across is the H index. H index is nothing but it is an author level metric that attempts to measure both the productivity and citation impact of publications of a scientist or a scholar. H index courses between 3 and 5 seem common for assistant professors, 8 to 12 fairly for an associate, and 15 to 20 for a full-time professor. Now, again, if we go to the styles of writing, I had mentioned earlier the styles of writing. That is the APA style, that is the American Psychological Association. They've come up with their 6th edition and they mainly use the word references. And there you find it for psychology, education, and sciences. They follow the APA style. Now, when it comes to the MLA, that is nothing but Modern Language Association, they use the word works cited. And basically, the English and the humanities, they follow the MLA system and MLA style. And the CMS is a Chicago manual style. They've come up with the 16th edition. History, medical, biological, life sciences, they follow the CMS style. Now, again, moreover, there are the IEEE, Vancouver, Harvard, ACS, and etc. Then, when you come across two words, one is a citation, and you come across something called the citation style. Citation is nothing but it gives credit to the individuals, safeguarding them from plagiarism. Whereas citation style is nothing but helping you to format your thesis or academic writing, ensure the punctuations are put correctly, etc. Now you have even citation managers online which help you a lot. That is the Medley, EndNote, and Zotero. Now, to conclude, I would like to, in a nutshell, I would like to talk about whatever we have spoken. That is, as I clearly mentioned, academic writing, you have to follow the listing of simplicity is a key. The title that you're using should be catchy. It should be the representation of your work. It should be free from spelling errors. You have to double check the spelling and the case type. Case type is the uppercase or lowercase. Whatever you have given in your synopsis, that same title should be ensured. Ensure the word limit. Second is when you are moving to the abstract. Abstract is also a very important portion of your academic writing. That is, actually, it is the abstract that goes online, which is free. You don't have to pay for your abstract. So, if you want to attract research scholars to your thesis or to your research work, your abstract has to be really perfect. What most of the research scholars have a wrong notion that you can write the abstract first. Abstract can never be written first. It is something that you have to write last because it has to include even the study in a simple form. The importance of your conclusion has to be mentioned in an abstract. It is a central idea of your work. The brief findings have to be included. You have to highlight the purpose, the summary. Preferably, it has to be one paragraph or whatever it is. And the words, usually you don't go beyond 300 words. You have to state the importance of your conclusion. You have to use short sentences. It has to be self-explanatory. You have to follow certain word limit. Avoid abbreviations and complex sentences. Depending on your work, you can make it structured or unstructured. Now, the introduction. Give problems definition, thereby acquainting the leaders about the idea of the research. That is, you ensure brief background, should not be too long. You have to stay focused. Start with the current scenario, that is the present, and then with your current study. Then, when you write your material, see that you use the past tense. Use a balance in the voice, that is, balance in the active and passive voice. Don't begin the sentence with digits. Use punctuations appropriately, as I said earlier. Use your articles correctly. A and the has to be mentioned correctly. Avoid Latin words. All that has to be followed when you write your material. Now, when you go to the results, follow a pattern which has a logical sequence. See that you give important weightage to all the results. As I said earlier, avoid using vague and exaggerated terms. Do not repeat the results. Make very crisp statements in your research. That is, it should be clear and short. Then your conclusion, it must be concise. It has to be in a nutshell. It should be strictly based as per the objectives. And your acknowledgement, always it has to be formal, it has to be professional, humble, and straightforward. There is no need for any flowery words in your acknowledgement. Now, references, you have to follow the style, the guidelines very strictly, even for the punctuations. This is very important when it comes to writing your references. And also make sure when you are doing your academic writing for a thesis, make sure that you go to the university, follow the university norms, find out what are the guidelines they prefer, and accordingly you have to build on your references, build on your academic writing. So these are some of the things which I have noted to share with you all with regard to academic writing, and I hope you have understood because this is one of the most important part where a teacher or an academician has to deal with. And thank you for your patience listening. And if you need any clarifications on what I've said, you can use the chat box and let me know also. No problem. Over to you, Betty. If you need to ask me anything, you can ask me, whatever. From my experience, I can always tell you, no problem.
Hello, Medlan, are you there? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
There's this question from Sanjay. He would like to know whether would quoting statements from prominent speakers or authors from the YouTube channels or any other interviews be considered valid? If
What's that?
if he could quote if he would quote any statements from any prominent speakers, suppose if he's viewing something from YouTube, can he quote that and will that be considered valid? That is what he was trying to do.
See, there's nothing wrong in quoting, but only thing is when you quote someone's words or anything, it's always better to write the name of the person. And also, of course, when you write it in academic writing, it has to go with the quotes. You have to write a quote. So definitely, when you go through plagiarism, also it doesn't get caught when you are giving it to the library in your research department or anything like that. But there's nothing wrong in quoting, because actually, even when you do your findings, what I was told is, when you do your findings, that is, when, like whatever you have found out, you can always have a discussion related finding. You can quote it from others' work also, and then you can bring about a. That's what they prefer now in the present day research field.
Okay, there's this other question from the same person, especially when is it considered valid? That's what you want to know. Will this citation be considered valid? And when one is unable to find the statements in their work, and is there any particular way to cite them? So probably regarding the validity, if he's unable to find so, is there any source to cite these? That is what he would like to know.
Now, cite these in a sense, what is the exact thing? Now, for example, I will would quoting statements from prominent speakers or authors from YouTube channel, webinar series be considered valid? Yes, especially when one is not able to find these statements in your work, and there is a see, you can always write at the reference. You can quote your YouTube reference also. That is not a problem. You can write. You can paste your link also to it. That is not a problem, which definitely takes you if you have taken it from a YouTube speaker. Now, for example, for my thesis, I took something from the summit that was happening in Lee Meridian. So definitely, I had that quoting with me. So what was spoken there, I was able to put it across, because that was my topic was on NRI investments, and that was a seminar where they had for the NRIs. So definitely, I had to quote one or two from the speaker, the minister who attended that particular session, that conference, which had come on YouTube, and I had quoted it. So it was valid, and there was no issues that was raised about it.
Okay, so I think that's all. Anyone else would like to ask any questions? You may unmute yourself and do so, or you can put it onto the chat box. Any other questions? I guess we don't have any other questions, so probably we could end this. And I would like to thank Dr. Roslyn for accepting our invitation and coming over. It was indeed a wonderful session, a very informative one. Thank you once again. For the formal vote of thanks, I would like to call upon Sirisha, the head of Center of Excellence.
Indeed, I'm very happy to interact with you all, and thanks for inviting me to your esteemed institution.
Oh, our pleasure, ma'am. And I would like to ask Sirisha to propose a vote of thanks. Over to you, Sirisha, ma'am.
Thank you, Medlin. A very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for all of you who've been a part of this national webinar. Respected Dr. Rajaram sir, Dr. Rosalind ma'am, our secretary, our administrator, Reverend Sister Margaret Julie, our beloved principal, Miss Nisha Joseph, our evening college principal, Miss Veena Kumari, IQAC and Center for Excellence coordinators and members, Miss Maria, the host for the day, dear faculty members and participants. It is my privilege today to have been asked to propose today's vote of thanks. On this occasion, I, on behalf of St.Anne's Degree College for Women and IQAC and Center for Excellence, the organizing committee, extend my sincere gratitude to our resource persons who have blessed us virtually. Thank you, ma'am and sir, for your time. I also extend my deep sense of appreciation to Dr. Rajaram and Dr. Rosalind for the very resourceful talk. Sir, I quite appreciate and agree with what you had mentioned on the evolution of the humanities discipline. I am, in particular, I quite like the quote that you had mentioned man is the measure of all things. And in pursuit of our understanding of this nature, we destroy it. How true and how relevant. So the way you had explained about the different dimensions of humanities and different approaches, critical approaches, is really commendable. I have indeed learned a lot. I have picked up a lot from here, from this session. And also, ma'am, and agree with what you had mentioned on the evolution of the humanities discipline. I am, in particular, I quite like the quote that you had mentioned. Man is sorry for the disturbance. And also, I especially liked Dr. Rosalind's suggestions and insights on research paper writing. Ma'am has mentioned a lot about types of academic paper writing, traits of how to write a very good paper for the journals, how to keep it simple, how the title has to be catchy, how it has to be free from errors, how the abstract is the last thing to write. We generally write it first. So, a complete overview of research and journals about academic paper writing, ma'am, is indeed very informative, and your session is indeed very enriching. I thank you, both of you, from the organizing committees. I am thankful to our respected Secretary and Administrator, Reverend Sister Margaret Julie, for having initiated and encouraged us for organizing this webinar on the topic of great relevance. Thank you, Mother, for making it possible. A note of gratitude to our principal, Ms. Nisha Joseph, for her support and her much needed timely suggestions. Thank you, ma'am. A special thanks to our dear faculty, Ms. Maria, the wonderful host for the day, our moderators, Ms. Vasudha, Ms. Bedlin, our technical team support, Jesu, for his involvement and support. Last and most importantly, I express my gratitude to the IQAC and Center for Excellence team for the wonderful support and commitment towards making this national webinar happen. My big thanks to all our dear participants for their time and presence. Thank you once again. On this note, let me conclude today's
sorry
session.
to interrupt you, Sirisha. There's another question. Can I take it forward?
Please,
Is it
yes.
fine?
Yes.
Rosalind, ma'am, can I take it? Yes. This question from Ms. Sangeeta. She wants to know that normally when we try to present a paper, we are expected to submit an abstract first. So is it really necessary that we need to stick on to continue our paper? That's what she's asking.
Actually, you have to present the paper. What she's saying is, usually they say is, you have to give the abstract first. But the problem is, the abstract is the contents of what you are going to do. So what we tend to do is, we just try to write an abstract for 300 words. 300 words and then submit it and then do the research paper. But then what is necessary is, actually research cannot be done over a period of 1 week. It is something which you have already in mind and which you have already taken an interest in. So you have to actually have an idea of what you are going to do and what are your findings. You have to give a conclusion in the abstract itself. That is very important actually. So because even when you put it out in the, now for example, you are not going to pay for all your publications, and if you are going to put it, you have to pay for your publications. So in order to avoid paying for your publication, also your abstract doesn't have to be paid for. If you have put it online, it will be visible to all those who are visiting your site. Understood. So it is pointless to have an abstract without proper understanding of what you have done. So that is the logic behind it. So you have to always try to frame your abstract with the conclusions. But you don't have to give them an elaborate result of your work. That can be done in the later papers, but the abstract has to have something based on your conclusions.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope ma'am has answered your question well. This was from Rani Arul, one of our participants. Over to you, Surisha, to wind up the session.
Yes, Madeline. Now I conclude today's session, and I request all of you to fill in the feedback form that will be sent to your personal email IDs and to the WhatsApp group. Thank you all once again for being a part of this national webinar. We end the session now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks once again. Bye, take care.